The Sony FX3 has been out for around 3 years by now, but I only got it recently. So let's talk about what still makes this camera so extremely phenomenal here in 2024. And even so phenomenal that a movie last year was made with it. Are you ready? Let's go. The Sony FX3 is a 4K full-frame camera with an amazing Exmor-R sensor. It can shoot video footage in up to 4K 120 FPS, only with a minor crop of 1.1 in the 120 or 100 FPS mode, which is just really amazing. The camera has 10-bit 422 color, so you can get great image quality with beautiful colors. If you have a monitor that supports RAW shooting, then it's also possible to get 16-bit RAW video footage, which is just incredible in such a small form factor. The camera has Sony's popular S-Log3 picture profile, which allows for 15 stops of dynamic range. And this gives you the flexibility to fix a lot in the post-production without destroying the image. The camera also has a dual native ISO of 800 and 12,800 when shooting in log mode. What this basically means is that you get the cleanest image when having your ISO set to either 800 or 12,800. And the ability to go all the way up to 12,800 is simply a game changer, since this means that you can get some super clean looking video footage at night or in poorly lit scenarios. You have an amazing flip out screen. However, the best is still the new one on the Sony A7R5. That one is just like the perfect one, I feel like. It has a great big record button, which is amazing since the camera mainly is for recording video footage. The video footage is only recorded in 10.2 megapixel, but this is more than enough. Otherwise, why would one of the best movies from 2023 be shot entirely on an FX3 camera? Yup, I'm talking about The Creator. Entirely shot on the FX3. Insane, right? Well, it's actually quite simple why 10.2 megapixels is more than enough. It's because it has very little to do with the megapixel count and more to do with the amazing full-frame CMOS Exmor-R sensor, which this camera has. Because a well-made large sensor will almost always create a better image than a small sensor with a large megapixel count. Yes, I'm talking about those people that thinks that a phone can do the same as a professional camera? Nah. Sometimes having a discussion with those people is pointless, so I usually just let them be right, so I can have some peace. At least for a moment. The IBIS and the autofocus is also a big factor for why this camera housing is so great, but there's of course a lot of other Sony cameras that has these same great features as well. There's a lot of smaller features that makes this camera so great. For example, the ability to use super fast CF Express Type A card slots, USB-C 3.2, Bluetooth, FTP, and directly streaming to a computer program like OBS. A lot of these features are also available in other Sony cameras, but it's still some of the features that makes this camera great. A lot of video nerds will probably be saying this camera is just a knockoff of the A7S III. And to that I'll say, you're absolutely right. Or partly, because this camera comes with some pretty significant differences for someone like me. First and foremost, it comes with a handle with some XLR ports, and it simply connects through the hot shoe mount. This attachment is great if you, like me, often attach a microphone that needs an XLR connection like this Shure SM7B microphone does. The second thing, and something that also really has started to annoy me about my Sony A7 IV, is that the FX3 comes with tally lights, which the Sony A7S III also doesn't come with. This is a nice to have feature for sure, but damn it's handy. Because there's been so many times where I thought that I started my A7 IV, but I didn't. And yes, I have a red border feature turned on, but that doesn't always help when you're standing in direct sunlight. The FX3 has a light both above the A light on the back, and then it has the red border feature turned on by default. So you're never doubting whether or not you've hit record. You just look at the camera once and then you know instantly. Since vertical content has become so popular, and it's actually also the way I started to make content, then it's amazing that the FX3 comes with so many screw holes where you can just twist it into any Arca Swiss mounting screw. The ability to also just screw anything onto the camera can come in clutch so many times on set. The last thing I want to touch on is the built-in fan. The A7 IV that I have already can overheat sometimes, and so can the A7S III. And that is simply a horrible thing to deal with on set, because you need to find a way for it to cool down again. And it can sometimes be some pretty sketchy stuff that happens. Talking from experience. So this is a major reason to choose the FX3 over the A7S III. The A7S III does come with a viewfinder, which is something that's missing on the FX3. However, it's the exact same 12 megapixel picture quality that both cameras can deliver. So in my opinion, it isn't a deal breaker to not have that. I will agree that it's a bit weird to take photos with a camera that doesn't have a viewfinder, but you'll get used to it. These cameras aren't supposed to be photo-centered cameras anyway, so if you need a more photo-centered camera, then I would choose to buy something else. Sony have said that they're gonna release an update to the FX3 in September, which is supposed to have shutter angle, and this is gonna make the camera even more attractive to a lot of people, because this moves it more towards the cinema camera title that's given by Sony. So as an owner of the FX3, I'm really looking forward to that. And this also means that Sony potentially could keep updating the camera way into the future. So it'll probably have a lot more future-proofing than the A7S III. This would also be a major reason for why the FX3 is the better option. The biggest issue I see that people are having is that it's more expensive. But to be honest, if you're gonna spend this amount of money for a camera housing, then the small amount that the FX3 costs more than the A7S III shouldn't be a big deal, since it's such a small amount for way more future-proofing and, in my opinion, way more features. Probably not on the spreadsheet since the image quality is the same, but definitely if you count all the ergonomics in as well. If you plan to do commercial shoots with it, then I really wouldn't cheap out. Again, just my opinion. That's all I have to say. If you disagree with anything I've said, then I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section down below. Apart from that, subscribe to the channel if you want to hear more about tech, photo, video or software, and also leave a like if you want to see more content like this. Then I'm out.